Welcome to the Wemi Show. I am Wemi. I'm so excited. We have an amazing show ahead for you today. I am here with Master NBA trainer, Chris Johnson. Chris has worked with some of the great, amazing people. He's worked with LeBron James. He's worked with Dwyane Wade. He's worked with Chris Paul, just to name a few. And there are some principles that have propelled Chris to success on the court. And we're going to talk to Chris about how to take those principles and take them off the court into achieving greatness in real life. Chris, welcome.
Thank you for having me.
Of course, it's a pleasure. Thank you so much for being here. I'm actually really excited to talk to you because I think so many of us, we see people achieving greatness, right? And specifically for you on the court. And the question is, can you take some of those things that, people go in and they practice every single day in perseverance, and how do you apply it to real life? So I'm really excited to dig in with you.
Wow. Yeah, that's good.
Yeah. And you know what? Actually, before we started the show, we were talking about this. We were talking about New Year's resolutions, setting intentions. So I want you to share a little bit about what your intentions are going into this next phase, next season of your life.
Yeah, we have a men's group, and, a lot of men get together. And when they get together, they normally doing sporting events, maybe looking at cars, fishing. We decided with our group, we were going to elevate our conversations about our intentions, about our purpose, and what our visions are. And what I realized that if you can get a group of men together that can see other people's vision, you might have a resource that you can provide to your friend next to you. A lot of times we're in the same circle group, and if they don't know your vision, they can't provide you with access or resources that you may not have.
Because they don't know what you need.
They don't know what you need.
Yeah.
And so you have to understand the level of what that person is in your life. So you got to have intention with the people that are in your life. So I know who my confidants are.
Yeah. And everything is energy. I'm Nigerian. I always say this. We believe very much in protecting energy. You don't tell everybody everything.
Right.
And I think sometimes, there is a time to share, what you're building with the world. And then there's a time to nurture it and actually keep it to yourself. And there's a time to share it with your inner circle because they're actually helping you grow.
Right.
But one thing that you also talked about, just in terms of having that group, it takes vulnerability to be able to share your dreams and your goals and your visions, with the people that are around you. For you, how have you mastered the people that you have brought around you in that inner circle to give you that support?
I look at accountability. I want men that are around me, or people, or women, anyone that are around me, to give me accountability, like to hold me to my word.
Yeah.
Right. And I think that's how you choose your circle. My circle's not chose based on fame, money, and I didn't really even choose in regards of I want that person in my life. Yeah. It was a natural energy, and then you evaluate it, and then it becomes brotherhood. Yeah. And then at my age, it's not like day ones. So day ones are people that I actually grew up with, so I didn't get to choose them. Yeah. My day twos, I get to choose. And so I think is more power in choosing your day twos than having day ones.
Okay, great point right there. Because I think as we talk about growth, as we talk about success, as we talk about building, hopefully you just keep growing, you keep building. But it's interesting, I think some people get stuck on the day ones. They get stuck. And I think what happens is we say, oh, well, they've been loyal to me, so we need to keep it that way. But you don't recognize that it's stagnant.
Yes.
So you're relying on people who are not elevating you in any way, or people that you've outgrown.
Right.
Having talent, having an innate ability to do something is great, but developing that talent, building that talent, that's a whole other thing. So what do you think it actually takes to be great? Because you've been around a lot of greatness, right? You've been around a lot of people.
Yeah. In general, not just from athletes, but, from CEOs, entrepreneurs. You can look at it from people that are actress or actors. My network is really diverse, right? And the one thing that I've seen that no one talks about, and this is one of my focus points this year, is to talk about failing, right? Failure. So when you look at an athlete's success, right, especially one of the best, he's failed more times, or she has failed more times than what they've actually won.
Yeah.
So the lessons come within failing. And nobody wants to show or showcase how they fail. The people that learn to train their mental, their mindset, how to overcome failure and overcome it quickly has more of the ability to be more successful. They become more resilient.
Yeah.
And so you look at mental resilience. Some people look at, they call it like mental toughness, but it's really building up this resilient mental mind frame that allows you to keep overcoming obstacles. So behind every great story, there's a bunch of failure. And behind every great business, they fail. And so what we want to do is not look at just the success part of it. We want to look at every detail of what it took to get there and what didn't work. And as soon as you find out what does not work, the faster you're able to understand what works.
Absolutely.
So athletes fail, and they fail in front of everybody publicly. And that's why I always would go into business with an athlete.
Because they know what it's like. So we are normalizing failure,
Yes.
right? Because I also think there are two things, Chris, that I've also noticed. I think we went from never talking about failure, so we would always see the highlight reel. Way back in the day.
No, social media.
So, yes.
Right now, today.
Right?
Right now.
Yeah. And then you see, like, even back in the day, we would see, oh, you know, you watch MTV Cribs, you watch all of these shows that only showed the highlights reel. It's the lifestyles of the rich and famous, and they stay here. And I'm like, well, no one talks about paying taxes. No one talks about all the other stuff that goes into being successful. And then now social media as well, highlight reel. But I think we've also done something else that's a little off, which is also sometimes romanticizing failure.
Right.
We make failure really pretty.
Right.
Right? So it's like, you know, you got to fail hard. You got to fail forward.
Right.
But it's messy as hell.
It's going to challenge you.
Yeah.
Yeah. So this is why you have to become mentally fit. One of my things this year, and I know people are like, wow, this is not something crazy, but it's to ask more questions and to become a better listener.
I love that. Curiosity is really important.
I want to know. Yeah, I want to know.
Because I never get people who don't ask questions. I mean, or who don't question everything. And I think we are in a very politically charged space. I mean, it's been for the past like couple of years, or maybe it's always been that way. But I think we stopped having conversations. We stopped actually asking questions of each other. Well, why do you feel that way?
Right.
What allowed you to, what are your lived experiences that brought you to this point? There has to be a natural human curiosity there that a lot of people just don't tap into.
Yeah, it's more of judgment. Like, you know, you're judging someone from a distance. And sometimes, you know, if you listen, you might not have anything to say. So sometimes just listening allowed me to understand exactly how to close this business, or if I want to be a part of this startup company, or am I an investor in this, you know, this new company, or going to VC. I just want to learn. And I think learning on the court as a basketball coach and teaching allowed me to become one of the top teachers in the world. So as well as I'm teaching the players, they're also teaching me.
Yeah.
And so you learn the mannerisms, you learn the disciplines, you can see through their eyes how they see it. So when I'm coaching and teaching, and the same thing, my formula is going to work with entrepreneurs, CEOs, and coaching these Fortune 500 companies, I need to get behind them. I need to see their vision. I don't want to change their vision.
That's a word, because I think so many people, especially because of the very visible world that we live in right now, we think that we have to be in front of things. We don't recognize the work that actually happens. The great stuff happens behind the scenes. And two things that you just mentioned, which is listening. And observation. Observation.
And you don't have to have the answers.
Yeah.
Sometimes you have to get behind. If you're working and I'm coaching an individual, I don't want to thrust to say this is the right way. I want to get behind them and see what they see. And then seeing what they see allow me to build a formula, like a system that works for them to help them create success. Yeah. So the system changes, the formula changes for each individual. And so you got to have a great feel. This has to be with your intuition. It has to be within you.
Yeah.
So working with people, developing people, serving people is what's in me.
Yeah.
And, you know, it's not a price tag to go with it. And it's a gift. Yeah. And so I really tapping into that gift of saying, okay, wait a minute. Let's see what they see. And let's not come in with this old formula. It's 2024. So I want to create new assessments. I want to have new mental assessments. I want to have the mental fit programs that I'm building, mental flexibility, everything that I would see and train when it comes to the body that we can judge and we can measure. We need to create new measurement tools for the mind. Yeah. And this allows for people to be able to put a routine in place that helps them grow every day. Just win today. That's what my company is called, Just Win.
Just focus again on today. Tomorrow, you'll figure that out.
That's the
acronym
that's the
of
win.
Too. I love, you mentioned something before, which was consistency.
Right.
And I think it's also part of some of the behind the scenes skills that people don't pay attention to. Oh, I'm going to go in, I'm going to grind, I'm going to do the work physically, etc. But it's interesting because I always say success is just showing up every single day, just consistently, right? So I've shared this before. Actually, one of my videos that went viral was about the bamboo tree. And it was about the fact that you have to water a bamboo tree exactly where it is consistently for 5 years, the Chinese bamboo tree. And in those 5 years, you don't see anything. Nothing. Like you just literally, imagine being the person that has to show up and water the bamboo tree every day for 5 years. You don't see anything. Nothing is shooting up. Nothing is growing. Literally, in that last year, the final year, I think it shoots up 90 feet tall in 5 weeks. So did it take 5 years and 5 weeks? Or did it take 5 weeks for it to shoot up 90 feet tall? That's consistency.
Right.
What are some of the other things? You talked about instinct. What are some of the other things that we don't talk about, the underrated skills that it actually takes for athletes to be successful? And not just athletes, because athletes are also human beings. Right. They bleed red.
No, seriously.
They have muscles just like we are, 2 eyes, 2 ears. But
no,
what does it take behind the scenes?
Self-discipline. Self-discipline is, is so key. You got to self-check yourself. Like no one can demand more out of you
than you.
Because you only know when you're giving your full effort. That I created my very first shoe this year with canes.
Congratulations, Chris. Okay.
It's a mental health shoe, and on the inside of the sole, I put you versus you, because when you get up, you have to look in the mirror, and now that challenge is: can I compete with myself? Am I self-disciplined? Am I self-checking myself? Because I believe what you do in private is really who you are. So I could go on television and say, I don't eat meat. Yeah. And then as soon as we go have dinner, can I get a steak, please? And so
I'm vegetable and fish forward.
So, and I don't eat red meat, but I think the biggest thing, and also for people out there I think 99% of our world was raised in some type of sport, some type of fine arts, some type of music, some type of enrichment. Right? So we're all coming in with an athletic background. Every corporation is going to be surrounded with some type of background. Yeah. Dancing, dancer, So each one of them have it in them. So the programs that I'm putting in place is to tap into that inner child that was an athlete. Yeah. That didn't fear competition. I call it running your race. So, most people don't succeed at running a race because they're looking too far left or they're looking too far right. And when you look at, like I say, social media, when I look at it, I'm like, wow, if I was younger, I could be really distracted.
Can you imagine what kids, not just kids and adults, we're all going through it.
So you could be distracted based on people's physical appearance. Yeah. Modifications of applications of changing your features. You can look at fake information, propaganda, stuff that is put out there.
What it takes to be successful.
What it takes.
People are like, you got to do this, and you're like, that's not how it works.
That's not how it works.
And maybe you're doing the work and you don't even realize because you're looking at, I call it rubbernecking, right?
So you have to put you have to actually put your blinders on. Have you ever seen a horse race?
Yes. Not in person, but I have.
So if you ever go to a horse race or greyhounds to race, they have blinders on, right?
No, I didn't know that.
Yeah, they don't look to the left or to the right.
Because it's just forward.
So they're running at full potential.
Because they're looking forward and not distracted.
Not distracted.
Do you ever have moments like that, Chris, where you feel distracted, where you look and I mean, obviously you're at the top of your game, you're working with people who are at the top of their game, but I'm sure you also have a lot that you want to still accomplish. Like, do you ever compare?
I don't compare, but sometimes I can feel my neck doing like this, right? Like that right there.
A little rubbernecking twitch.
and I self-check myself.
Good. Yeah.
And you know what I say? I said, run your race. Stay present. Be where you are. And, I've always been a cheerleader for other people's success. So what makes you great at what you do is when you can celebrate other people's wins. So I'm always celebrating wins, but I check myself, and I'm always going to check myself as like, hey, you're right where you're supposed to be.
Yep.
At the time you're supposed to be there. And so embrace it. And that helps with anxiety. It helps with people that are feeling depressed. Depression's real. Anxiety's real. But why do you become depressed? Why do you get this real anxious? Because you're comparing yourself.
You stop being present.
You stop being present. You want something that someone else has. And I'm not based on like material things can't do it for me.
Also, they have that because they're capable of handling that.
Right.
And in addition to running your own race, I would say mind your business. Just mind your business. If you focus on your race, mind your business. And if you were meant to be carrying what that person is carrying, then you would have it.
Right.
And we are all given what we can carry.
Absolutely. Yeah. I believe that.
Has your definition of success changed, over your career, over your life? I think when you are younger, there is an idea of what success means. And I coach folks who are from age 16 to 70 something years old. And we still talk about this idea of success. And the one thing that I always say to my clients is you have to redefine what success means to you.
Right.
It could be freedom. It could be traveling. It could be 9 hours of sleep a night. Not what people are saying on social media or what other people are telling you. But I am curious for you, how did you define success and how has that changed?
It's a good question. I've always defined success with WORK. Always. Yeah. You go check my history. You go check Sports Illustrated. Go check anything that I've talked about. If you look at success, there's another word on the other side of success. And it's WORK.
It takes work, people.
It takes work.
Work and consistent work.
So it hasn't changed.
Yeah.
That's a good question.
So put in the work. Put in the work.
You have to commit to the work.
So you feel successful as long as you put in the work.
Absolutely. And my success is how many people life do I have an impact? Who have I inspired them? I may send out 200 text messages at 4 a.m. or maybe 2 at night, 2 a.m. You may touch like somebody's on my heart right now. I got to call them. And it's just like, hey, I'm just checking in. Like when I call people, I don't call for anything. So a lot of people around the world answer my phone call because I don't need anything. And I think that's how you really break in the barriers of getting to people. People's like, man, you got a bunch of people around you that's wealthy, they're famous. How do you have access to them? I don't want nothing from them. I have my own talent. I am my talent. But my talent allows for me to understand that on the other side of success, you have to work. There's no other part of it. And success is different. Yeah. Success for me now, if outside of working, would be drinking coffee, sitting on the beach.
I love that.
Reading and writing, just the very, very, very simple things in life.
I love that you say that because, again, let us normalize each individual defining what success means and looks like for them. But the non-negotiable is work. I always say miracles cost something.
It does.
You don't assume that you're just going to get something without actually putting in anything. For the longest time, and I shared this, very publicly, I was working it wasn't even a 9 to 5, it was like a 9 to midnight because I was in entertainment, I was in tech, I was in advertising, and I did a lot of that work, but I was always building a business. So I would go home and finish the work at midnight because I would be in meetings all day, come home, finish the work for someone else, and then hop on my business. I wrote a book while I was doing this. And I would say, if there's just one chapter, one paragraph, anything that I could do for myself, for my dream, to put something out into the world, just do it. But the work has to be done. There is no way around the work.
That's the separation. You know, water is hot at 211 degrees, right? Water begins to boil at 212 degrees.
1 degree separation. That's all it takes. Yeah.
People want to, if you want to get it,
get 1 degree better. Put in 1 degree extra of work. Yeah.
That's the separation. So most people are not willing to support themselves. They look for someone to do it. So, you know, the experience happened through you're able to pull yourself up and commit to that grind. Yeah. That's good. That's really good.
How do you determine when to shift, when to pivot, or when to push through? And this also obviously comes with the athletes that you train, because you're saying persevere, push, move forward. But when do you say, okay, enough, or we're pivoting, or we're changing?
I'm a master pivoter.
Should get a t-shirt for you that says that. Master pivoter.
I'm a master pivoter.
That's probably why you're so successful. Do you think?
I can pivot.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So you're not stuck on, you know, like it has to be this way. Because also that's ego, which I also want to talk about with you.
Well, let me give you an example. Like, let's say I have a client, okay? He's coming in the facility. I have this pre-plan of his regimen for that day. And when he comes in, I can see his body language. Boom. Okay. You know, my assistants, you know, it shows how in tune I am. Boom. I whisper to my assistant, hey, we're not gonna do this today. And it throws them off. What? We're like, what's going on?
Because you were present enough to read the room.
I can see it. Boom. We're gonna do this. And then I may approach him. Everything good? What you mean? I see it. Man, I'm glad you asked. So then we may just go in the office and talk for an hour and 30 minutes. We might not even shoot no ball. We may not work on a skill set on the court. It's about being mentally present in that moment. So like a lot of people miss that opportunity. Yeah. So that's an opportunity for me to pivot. People that play basketball, they know this. The most important set of skills that you can have outside of shooting is footwork. We call it pivoting.
Pivoting, yep.
So if you look at some of the greatest... I didn't even know that, Chris.
I mean, I played basketball a really long time ago, but...
You look at the greatest players that play.
Yeah.
Michael Jordan.
They move fast. They pivot fast.
His footwork is phenomenal. Kobe Bryant.
Yeah.
Dwyane Wade.
Also,
LeBron
consistency
James.
is a theme with that, right? So consistency and pivoting.
Yes. So being able to pivot allows for you to get out of any obstacle, any situation.
Yeah.
So you can have situational pivots. That means that you're thinking, you're present, and you're willing to change for that moment to figure out how to win that situation. So I look at people that cannot pivot, and I don't really want them on my team, to be honest with you. People call it stubborn, but it's really their inability to be vulnerable to what they can't do.
They're stagnant.
That was my grandparents. I grew up in Texas, and I grew up in a household to where it was solid. Everything was good. I had a great family. But people that I grew up with would understand this language is don't question. So my grandparents or someone would say, if you say, hey, can I do it like this? Hey, you're talking back. Oof. And you're like, wait a minute. And so when I look back now, I realize they didn't have an answer. So the easiest way...
Let's just put that questioning down. It's like, let's just press it down. Don't ask any questions. Don't be curious.
That's the easiest way to.
Yeah. And instead of saying, maybe, I don't know, let's figure it out together. Yeah. And that we have to do better, by the way.
That's
generationally, right? It's like, it's okay for your kids to ask you questions. It's okay if you don't know or if you don't have the answers. Another thing is that I learned in coming from the Nigerian culture is that did happen quite a bit. You don't talk back, right?
Don't talk back.
Respect is a really, really big thing. Right. But the other part of it is you don't own your child's journey. You're actually a guide. And so if we look at it as I'm a guide and I know what I know and I don't know what I don't know, and there are some things that you will have to figure out together, it actually allows you both to grow together.
Imagine sending, your kid to school. So I was in school, I was in 9th grade. I was a decent student. I became a better student as I went along. And I had this like parent-teacher conference. And my teacher said something to my parents that I understand now. It was like, you know, Chris would do better as a student if he has more questions.
Interesting.
But and my parents turned and looked at me in the car like, why don't you ask more questions in class? And now I look back and I was like, in my house, asking questions is talking back. So in a Black culture, we're taught if you ask a question or you question something, that's considered talking back. And if you're talking back, you're being disrespectful. So how can, in that culture, how can a African-American student go be successful in class if they're being taught not to talk back? So why would they ask questions in school? That's like contradicting the way they've been raised.
So this applies, by the way, to not just personal life, but to your business, obviously athletes as well, pivoting and being able to ask questions. I think we are afraid to show up as if we might not know something, right? Afraid of looking stupid. And I'm like, well, if you pose it as curiosity, no one's going to say, oh, the curious person is stupid. No. They're just going to say, oh, you're curious about what's going on. If I don't understand something about basketball and we're talking about it right now, I'm like, Chris, I've actually never thought about that.
I don't even know.
Can you tell me?
Absolutely.
You know, pose it as that, pose it as curiosity. And I think it'll feel less like you are asking a stupid question and actually just saying, I want to know more.
That's why on my vision board for 2024, I want to become the best questioner. Like I want to ask as many questions as possible to make me a better teacher. And so that way I could take information from other people and I can apply it to different people that it applies to.
Yeah.
You know, you're always trying to convince people that are saying, I've only done it this way.
Let's talk about that. Because to me, that's ego, right? And I don't necessarily, by the way, I don't think ego is a bad thing. I think ego is actually here to teach us something and to shed light on certain things. So you work with people who they tell all the time, you are great, you're great, you're great, right? And they're hearing that consistently. Right. And so they come into a situation not curious. They come into a situation thinking they know everything. They come into a situation not thinking, I have to change or I have to pivot in any way. How do you approach ego in your work? How do you make sure that your ego doesn't get in the way when someone comes at you, you know, in that way, in actually collaborating and being productive?
Well, the one thing that I did learn, and everybody should know this right off the bat, the top players in the world, they're the best students.
Can you say that again, Chris?
Just so you know, the best player in the world. Like we could take Bron. LeBron is one of the smartest individuals you're ever gonna meet. He's fully aware, he's want to learn, he only comes to learn. Maybe it's one thing. You can't be the best player ever played the game and not be a learner. How to get better.
Same thing with the game of life, by the way.
It's the same thing.
In business.
So that is a skill set within its own. So people that are under that person may struggle with adaptability and vulnerability. Like if I can't do something, I've done it only one way. And now someone's saying, hey, let's look at it a little different.
Try it in a different way.
No, I've only done this. This is how I've got to this point. Well, for them to get past that moment or point or where they are in their life, they have to pivot into this new character. I'll give you another great example. Let's take a player that was in his prime, that was moving from prime veteran to almost non-existence. The player that learns how to continually reinvent themselves and pivot plays the game as long as they want to.
As long as they want
As long as they want to. Because they'll change their eating habits. They'll go to sleep at night. They train differently. They listen to their body. They're educating themselves. They're showing up and saying, Coach, what's the new role you want me to take on? Versus I can show you a player that kills his career. You could kill your career, make it shorter when you go in and say, this is what I do. So trade me.
This is how I play.
This is it. No, I'm serious. Like, this is it. This is how I run my business.
Ego.
It may not even be ego. It's the fear to open your mind to something that you don't know. You don't see greatness in people that are not willing to
learn. So always be willing to learn, always be pivoting and always be learning.
Coaches, CEOs, if I'm a CEO of a company and I want my company to hit all the numbers, I need to know my personnel. I need to know the personnel and what they do great.
Yeah.
This is what we call a role identification. So role identification in sports is the same role identification in the business world.
Yeah.
Because if I know what you are really great at, I'm going to put you in the situations where you could be great.
You know what I learned also from working with within some incredibly successful companies is that the best CEOs, it's not that they're actually great at everything. They just know how to put the best people
There you go.
in the right positions.
That's all coaching is.
Yeah.
If I could put the right pieces in the right place,
Yep.
it's going to come together and flow.
Yeah.
But if I don't have the right pieces out of order, it doesn't look like a river, it doesn't flow.
It doesn't flow. I always say something to my clients. I always say we tend to look at life as the fastest way to get from point A to point B is a straight line.
Right.
Life is not interested in a straight line. By the way, life is messy.
It is very
And
messy.
life is also not interested in speed, by the way. But if you can shift your perspective and look at your life as a puzzle,
Right.
that means you're putting the right pieces in the right place.
That's all it is. There you go. So if we want to get better today, evaluate your team, evaluate the people around you, put the right pieces in place of what they do very well, not what you want them to do.
Right.
Because then you're not going to get any extra effort.
Right.
You don't get someone thinking or dreaming about, being great. You just get them doing a job. I am a coach, but the way I coach is not with any objects between us. So I really got to get in, connect.
Get the barriers out of the way.
Next week I have a corporate speaking, I'm going in for the coaching of the team, top team. And when I go in, my approach is the same way I approach athletes. Hands on, it's in your face. It's not, no, that's not right. Now what? So sometimes I could challenge you. Like I need you to do this, and you're like, I don't do it like that. Well, show me how you do it.
Because you're keeping the conversation open. Also a great tip for businesses, asking closed-ended questions. Yeah. It means I don't need any other answers from you, but open-ended is, well, show me how, and then let's come to an understanding.
Show me how you do that. So then I'm, okay, you actually are very close to being right. See, I just saw you.
Right. Without saying, no, you're actually wrong.
Or you're actually close to being right, but
I'm going to use that.
This guy.
You're close to being right.
You're right there.
Yeah.
But you want to perform? Do you want peak performance?
What do you want?
What do you want? Hey, if you can't give me everything you got, then I'm going to go home. So a lot of people are afraid. A lot of coaches and counselors and psychologists are people in position that really have an impact on people. They do it from a position of fear. I don't want to lose a client. So whether they get better or not, I don't care about losing a client. Matter of fact,
you just read my mind because I was going to ask you about that. Have you ever walked away from a client?
I wrote some
Said
checks.
No, fired a client.
I would write some checks because I will not tolerate certain behavior. So you have to come to me with an open platform, and I'm coming to you with an open platform, and then we're going to build it together. But I'm smart enough to build it. But I'm not afraid to say, hey, we don't align. And so I just feel like being a fire sign, I feel like dealing with it head on. Yeah. So
what's your sign?
I'm a Leo,
okay.
But I'm fire of I'm positive, right?
Yeah.
Not too positive that I won't fight you. So a lot of people get that confused. They're like, yo, Chris is really, don't cross me.
Because Chris, when we first met, I was like, you're very zen and calm, but I totally get it because the Leo and the leadership and the pushing forward and the perseverance.
That's a self-discipline part, but don't cross me because I will challenge you. I will get after you because I'm a competitor.
What are your non-negotiable? Because we talked about this. We talked
with
about
myself
integrity.
or with
yourself.
Other people.
Because we talked about right now, you will say no to a client. I think it's important for people, whether you are at a job, whether you are, working for yourself and you have clients of your own, I think it's important for you to know what your non-negotiables are. And, integrity, is it for me?
Yeah.
Honor.
Yeah.
Say what you mean what you say.
Yeah.
But for you, what are your non-negotiables in life and in business?
So for me, myself, non-negotiables is if I'm supposed to get up to go to yoga, and I'm like, man, I'm sore today. I didn't go to bed till 3:00 because I was on a phone call in China.
Yeah.
At Zoom. I'm not negotiating. I'm getting up.
Because you said you were going to
I'm talking to myself. You have to get going. Just get up.
Let's get up.
Get up, put the shoe on, and when it's over, then you can see where you are. So I have a non-negotiable with myself of showing up for myself. I'm not going to talk behind your back when you are not. And
like that.
if I walk in a room and people are gossiping, I'm going to politely leave the room.
It's not your room. Yeah.
I'm not a gossiper. If I got something to say to you, I'm going to
say it.
No, I'm going to call you. I'm going to say, hey,
Yeah.
let's meet. Now, if you're not open to confrontation, you're going to go away, but I'm going to stay steady. I have nothing to say about someone if they're not present.
Yeah. That's great. That's great advice in all areas
In
of life.
everything.
Yeah, absolutely.
And so the biggest thing for me when it comes to clients or business or, anything that's in a realm of making money or anything is time. If you call ahead and say, man, I had a flat, we got these electric cars, the battery thing. I mean, you hear, but I'm collecting data. I'm like, okay, bro, like boom, boom, boom. So all of my clients know, like, see, don't play around. It's a running thing in the community. No matter how much, I got guys that make $40 million a year. Respectful, very respectful, show up on time, very diligent about their time. They want to maximize their time.
Because Chris, the time is the most precious gift that we have. We cannot make more time.
You can't.
There are billionaires who are no longer here.
Yes.
Because we are privileged enough to have time that they don't have.
Yes. So time is one of them. And I like to deal with people with integrity. So if I feel like we don't align, if you're young, I'll sit down and have a conversation with you to see if we can have an open table to where you could be open to where I can implement some plans and strategies in your life to change you. And I have some young players that follow the system, the formula, and now like they're going to be all-stars this year. They're going to be making $250 million at 24. And then I have guys that don't follow. Like you're like, yo, bro, that ain't going to work. And I've seen it before. So you just you collect a lot of data and over time, body languages speak.
Yeah.
Actions speak. Yeah.
Actions, they speak a lot louder than words, I tell you. But speaking of words, I want to play a game.
Okay.
If you're up for it. I want to do a word association game. Is what we like to do with our guests.
Okay.
Our experts. So I'm going to throw out a word out there for you, Chris, and then you just tell me the first thing that comes to your mind, okay? All right. Motivation.
It gets you started.
Money.
Freedom.
Ego.
You need it.
Risk.
Failure. You got to go.
Spirituality.
Very important. It doesn't matter the religion. It has to do with you and what's in you.
Rules.
Necessary.
Burnout.
No such thing.
Interesting. Okay, we don't have enough time to talk about that, but I'm gonna.
Well, because people say athletes burn out. I hear parents they start him when they're little, and they be like, about time he get to 18, he gonna burn out. You don't know that.
Yeah. Well, maybe if you train them right.
Well, it's how you train them. It's like
there you go.
It's you barking them. Rah, rah, rah.
Yeah.
Versus guided practice.
Got it. Okay, so we can apply that to life too. How not to burn out in life. Discipline.
Self-discipline.
Resilience.
Mental fitness.
Sacrifice. You
got to give it up. You got to give up the good for the great.
Oh, we put that on a t-shirt too. Legacy.
It depends on who you're leaving it for.
Interesting. I'm going to dig deep into that with you, but off camera. Okay, that was good. Thank you. Okay. Before we end, one piece of advice that has changed your life.
Open-mindedness. Just be open to receive each individual as who they are. That's it.
Yeah. Chris, you're the best. Thank you so much. This was an amazing show. I hope that you can take all of this and apply it to your life. Life is not perfect. It's not a straight line. We keep striving, we keep trying, we keep pushing, but be consistent, be persistent. Failure is a part of it.
You're going to fail.
You know what I always say, Chris? I always say there's no right way to ride a roller coaster. The goal is to have fun. So try to have fun in the midst of all of this. I know we all want to achieve greatness. There's a lot to sacrifice to get there. It takes a lot of hard work, but try to have fun.
Have fun
along the
please.
way. So I appreciate you, Chris. Thank you again so much. We'll see you soon.